Hello everybody. Today we're gonna play with React Native. So what I suggest is to develop a very simple app, this one, which is just a simple page with information about the next events of Codito Ergo Sum. So I guess you went to the website meetup.com to register or to go here. And what we'll do now is to retrieve the information about the events using the API of Meetup and display it using React Native on both Android on the left and iOS on the right. So with React Native, when you initialize a project, you have some directories and files already created. You have, for example, this file, which is the default project of React Native. And to initialize a project, you need to open a terminal to install the different package and to initialize like this using this command with the name of your project, for example, family events, and it will initialize for you some files, as you can see here. And basically, it's just a kind of hello world, something that tell you welcome to React Native. And we will try this. Let me refresh my simulator. And by default, this is the thing that you can see. And the target will be this one. So you have two files. You have index iOS, index Android by default, and we need only one file to be shared between iOS and Android. We do not want to have a file for only iOS and a file only for Android. So to do that, we'll create a new file inside the SRC. I will create this folder and an empty file app.js, and here I will just create something shared between iOS and Android, and I will import it. So I will modify the default project, and instead of displaying the default content, I will remove all of this and I will import my new file. I will call it app, and it will be inside SRC app. And I will send it to the default component of my application. Here I don't need anymore all of this. So this is only what I need for now. And I will do the same for Android. So I will copy this content to this file, and inside app.js I will create my shared component. So next step will be to import React from React, and I will create a class. I will call it app, and it should extend from react.component. So to display something, this component should have a render method. This one. This render method will return something. It will return for now only, let's say, a text. Hello. This text, I need to import it first from React Native. I will do import text from React Native using this syntax. And now I will try to display it on my simulator. So here I have it. And so I will just verify. So import app from src.app. But anyway, it's not needed to add the .js using Node. And here in my app, Need to import text from React Native. And I need to, of course, export this class to be importable. I try to refresh. And now I have something displayed here at the top. It's over the status bar. I will just use a style to move it. I will add a margin, just 20 for margin, and it will be visible here. I will try now on Android. Here, I will refresh. It's an old version. And I have exactly the same content displayed, but using the same code. And this is the strength of React Native. In a few minutes, you can create this kind of page. But it's not finished. So we want to retrieve some data from the Meetup API. So the same way as many websites, they provide you an API. You can retrieve all the events of a group, and you can get information about the date, the venue, and so on. So when you read the documentation, you can find some URLs. I will get it. I just prepared 2 URLs. And these URLs here give you information about the events. For example, this meetup, Codito Ergo Sum, can be accessible via this one, this URL, and you have information about description, organizer, you have some photos, information about the next events, and this is the JSON format. You can retrieve this information and use them. So I have just the URL, and I will get this information. When you create a React component, you have access to some method like component did mount, and this method allow you to execute something after the initialization of the component. Here, I will fetch this URL, and I will do something with the result. Let me just copy this. I already prepared the fetch. So here I'm retrieving the information about the events of Codito, Ergo Sum, and the information about a specific event, and we will use this information. What I want to show you now is how to debug a React Native application. So I will just do a console log of these objects. Here in React Native, you have access to the development menu using Command D, and here you have enable debug JS remotely. It will take a few seconds to be initialized, and then it will open for you automatically a tab in Google Chrome. And here you can enable the console like you do for debugging a web application. And here you can view all the console logs of your program. For example, I decided to display the object I received, and this is this one with the name of the event of the group and the description and other information. Now the goal is to display it using the layout of this component. I will add, instead of displaying hello world, I will display the name of the event. So to do that, I will use the state. For example, when you receive the data from the server, you can set state inside this app component. And this set state will create a value that you can use to refresh the render. I will explain. So I have to initialize some state. By default, I will have a state group, and I will have a next event. By default, it will be null, and I will when I will receive the data from the server, I will replace null by the data I got using the this set state here. This is only this. Then when I do a set state, the render method is refreshed every time I do a set state. By default, I think I will display a loader, and when the first set state will be used, I will replace the loader by the content I receive from the server. So I will have a container first, a view, and inside I will display, let's say, the group. The group, I mean the group of the meetup. So I created a method render group, and this method I will call it, and it will return something depending if I receive the data or not. So if the state group is not null, I will display the name of the group because I received it. So I will use the text tag, and here I will have the state group name, which is what I got from the data from the server. Here, the name to be this one. We'll display it, and if not, for now I will display nothing. I will try to refresh. So now it tells me view is not defined. It means the view object here is not known. So I have to import it from React Native here, and now I can use it. So for 1 second, I can see nothing is displayed. Then when the data is received, I display the name of the group because the set state triggered the render method. So every time you do a set state, render method is called. Next step, it will be to display more things. Now, let's try to display an image. So I will have a container view. Basically, it's a kind of div in HTML. When you do, it's just a simple container. Inside, I will add my text, and I will add an image. This image, it will be also from the data. It will be this one, group photo, erase link. Got it from here. Erase link. This is the URL, and to use it, you have to set a source object, which is URI, and this value. When you with React Native, when you get an image from a server, you need to specify the size you want to use. So I will do for the width. For now, I will just use 100 and 100. Let's try. So it's loads the data from the server, and now the same way, it tells me that image is not defined. As with view, we need to import image first. After a few seconds, I can display the image, and let's try in Android too. Go to refresh, and display the same way. And this is native content. It's not a web view with an image or some HTML content. It's really native UI component used here. Let's try to use the full width of the screen to display this image. To do that, with React Native, you have access to dimensions. And dimensions tell you what is the size of the screen. So we'll use it. Dimensions get the window, and we'll get the width of the screen. Since it's a squared image, I will do the same for the 8. I will use the width of the screen. We'll put side by side, and it displays the image full size. Now I have the title, Cogito ergo sum, and we'll show you how to apply some styles on the text. So to do that, you have to use the style property inside the text tag. And here you have access basically to the same way as HTML to the CSS properties. Color, for example, can be another color. You can set a font size. Let's say 20. You can set more if you want. And as you can see, when I save my file, automatically the simulator is updated. To do that, you have to enable a feature in React Native, which is the hot reloading. When you enable it, you can do that, which is very useful. So we have the image, we have the title. Now we'll get some information about the next events. I retrieved another data here, and I stored it in next events. So I will add, after render group, I will display render next events, and I will create this new method, render next events. Inside, I will first I will set condition if I receive the data, so I can display something. In this case, I will display the information about the event. If not, I will display nothing. And here, let's take a look about the data I received. I received about the next events an array, because we can receive many events. And the first one will be the one we are actually. So we have the name we can use. We'll use, I think, the time of the event to display it, and also the address. So the same way as we did for the group, we can display first a container view, and inside we can add some text. First one will be the name of the event. So it will be this state next events dot name, and I will display it with the simulator. And since it's an array, I need to display only the first one. So now I have, when I do the set state, when I receive the data, here, this state, next event is basically the render method is called again. So we call render next events, and here we check again if state is set. If yes, we can display the new text. So we displayed this one. We'll add some styles, but this time we will create a variable, and we'll use many times this variable. We'll call it information. And the idea is to create many text using the same style. So the next one will be, for example, the time of the event. I will just add it for now. It will be a timestamp here. So a timestamp is number of seconds since 1970. And so this style, I will need to create it. So I can use the style sheet creator from React Native. Inside, I need to create some styles I will use. So we just created one called information. We'll use it and define, let's say, a font size 25 and a margin. to create some space between the text, and a margin left from the border of the screen at 10 also. And next step will be to import it, of course, from React Native. I'll go back here to the next events. So I should display now two things using the same style with the styles variable I just created. Here I have the two styles applied to the text. Next step will be to format this string, which is a timestamp, and we want something more readable. So with JavaScript, you have access to the dat object. So you can, like you do in web development, JavaScript, you can create a new object date, can receive a timestamp, and you can display it as a string. So you do an instance, new date, and then you have access to time. Oh, sorry, to string. So now we display something more readable. So it should be today. I will change a bit the style because I think it's this one should not be as big as the title of the event. The event will be a bit bigger. Also, we'll add a margin. We use 10, so we'll use 10 again. So we have something a bit better. Let's compare with Android. So I think it's a good practice when you develop an application with React Native to try sometimes the most you can in both platforms. Here I have the same result on Android. These informations are displayed. And as you can see, I cannot scroll here. I cannot move the view because the view is static. I need to use something different for that called the scroll view. So instead of using a view as a container, I will use a scroll view and I will import it from React Native. And I will try now to scroll. As you can see, now I have access to the scroll ability. So I can now add more contents to this page to be able to view them. So it will be one of the last steps. I need to add the address of the place. It should be in the data also. So let's see, we have a venue, and inside we have address 1. Let's use it. I will replace all of this. And so it will be in this state. So I have access to the object state, next event name, and it will be venue address 1. Let's try. Also on Android. And now I have all the address. What can we do now? We can add some colors. Can show you some more styles options. Regarding the title here, we just use a font size and margin left. We could use another color. Let's say we display red color. Also, you have access to the font weight. You can use bold, for example. Also, you have many options with React Native. For example, you have in the official documentation, you can see all the components you have access, like activity indicator. This one allow you to display a kind of loader, a spinner to tell the user that something is loading. And let's try it. You have to import it and tells you to use it like this. Okay, activity indicator should be displayed instead of the null we used for random group here. Instead of displaying nothing when we are loading the data, we will use this component. Animating means if something is spinning. So I will use true. The styles by default will be, I will just remove it. And large for the size. You have many options regarding this. Don't forget to import it from React Native like this, and then we'll use only one. We'll not display two loaders. And let's try. So as you can see here, there is a loader, and I will just add a styling on the top to not overlap the status bar. So on iOS, as you can see, it's gray, and on Android, we have a difference. As you can see, it was green because React Native use the native component for activity indicator. It's not something like you could use on web development. It's really the native one that it's used. All right, I think we reached the goal. So let me know if you have some questions regarding this application and how to use the React Native. Yes? Sorry? You can do this with React Native regarding all the navigation. React Native provide for you some tools for that. It exists many solutions. The one I suggest is React Native Router Flux. It's I think one of the easiest to implement. It's one of the strengths of React Native. It has many open source components. For example, this one is famous and widely used. Here you have some information about how to implement it. So we will not do it in live, but it's the one I recommend. Yes, the question was how to do routing in React Native, and so the answer, I suggest to use this one. And yes, you can use different routes, and you can use many calls in each pages. For React Native, I use Atom. It's for macOS and Windows. It's created by GitHub. It's very nice. Also, it's done with JavaScript, and it includes some library of package. Here you have access to search engine. You can, for example, search for React package, and you can add this to your environment with just one click. It allow you, for example, to add some snippets or autocomplete or other features. Also for React Native, you need, of course, on macOS Xcode to be able to build an iOS application. On Windows, you cannot use React Native for building iOS because you do not have Xcode. So the idea is to develop with Android in this case. And for Android, I have the Android SDK with Android Simulator.
You just mentioned the fact that you can actually have access to the debugger in Chrome. Could you just explain how the link is done, please?
Yes, of course. Here you have the simulator. It works also for Android. When you press Command D, you have access to this menu. And here you have, for example, the JS debugging and other feature like hot reloading. When you enable this, I will disable and enable again. It will create a kind of server with something we call the packager. Packager, it was in background, it's this terminal. When you execute a React Native application, this packager is running automatically. and it acts like a server, a web server or a kind of webpack. And with Chrome, you can access to this page from the port 8081. And when you open the console, it's communicate with the packager. That's why in Chrome, you have access to the debug information of React Native. Same way it works also, yes. Here you can enable the development menu and enable the debug, the JS debugging, but you cannot do the same time on iOS and Android. It's only one at a time.
Put all the code in Apple.js. How to split the file if you have a big project?
You can use the import feature. For example, on the index, it's what we used. We decided to import a component from another file, and this file, at the end, it's an export of a class. So this component. So here you can also import something else. Like let's say you have a home page. You can, for example, you could import home components from this folder and use it inside your application. So in the render method, you could use also, let's display the home part. Also here, it's the import feature that we use for React Native, the same behavior.
Does it happen often that if you're building a more complex app, that you reach the limits of what React Native allows you to do, and you have to code in the native language directly?
What kind of limitations?
I don't know. For instance, if you do, I was thinking audio work. For instance,
Audio
I
work?
didn't see in the documentation that React Native has audio component.
Yes, with React Native, you can most of the time use JavaScript, but you can also import native like Objective-C or Java codes inside your application with what we call a bridge. So in the documentation, you can find more information about the bridge. And hopefully, there is a lot of open source libraries. You can search it on, for example, on JS Coach. JS.coach. Here you have, you can filter by React Native. You can search for audio. Here you can find the most famous, if you check the number of stars or the number of downloads, and you can use the one you want.
And if you have to do custom code in a native language, is it easy in the environment?
It's doable. You can do it, yes.
Hi, thank you. Can you pass data from component to component?
Yes, using the props abilities. Let's create another component. We'll call it a button.
And like that, I have the second question talking about the
Yes.
events, like click events, etc.
Yes, okay. So I think button is a good example for that. Let's create a button.js file. And inside our app, at the end, we'll just use it, button. Next step will be to import it. So we'll import, I will call it button from, so it's the same folder, so it's just button.js. Inside, we'll create a new component. First thing will be to import React from React. From React, not React Native. And here we use, let's say, we need the text to display the label of the button. And there is something called touchable opacity. It's a component from React Native. Let's take a look here in the documentation. Search for touchable. Here you have many components you can use, and these components can listen to the touch events. So we'll use this one. Let's create a new class. We call it button, and it will extend from react.component. So we'll have a render method, and inside we'll return something to display. We will display this touchable opacity component. Inside we'll add a text. Text will be this props label. So we'll see what is exactly this props. So we'll display just this, and this app will pass this value to this component. Button will receive this label, call it like register to the event, and we will try. So I have a warning because the debugger should be in foreground. That's why it displays something. So here I have something displayed, and as you can see, it displays register, the name, the label that I passed to the component. Also, I can add a touch event to this. I will go back to the app, and in addition to the label, I will pass. I can choose the name I want on press, on touch, and choose what I want. And here, I will execute a function. So I declare a function here. It will be just in alert, button pressed. So this function will be passed to the button component and can be used here to the touchable opacity. Let's check the documentation. Touchable opacity, you have the on-press props. So you need to use this on-press, and you will pass what you received from the parent component, which is on-press, the same name. But it's not an issue to use the same name here. Let's try again. I have my button. When I click, the alert is displayed because the function was passed by the parent component. In fact, to do it the other way, you have to execute a function. For example, here, the idea was to execute this function, but I can pass a function that will execute this function and pass a value, like let's say the family, and we will try to display this. And here will be a value, a name. For example, you can choose the name you want, and here you can just display it. So you need to use the callback feature to return in information. Say register, display the family.
What about testing?
Testing, yes. You have many solutions for that. You have, for example, Jest React Native. Here, it's created by Facebook, and also React Native was created by Facebook. And this tool allows you to test the components. I think it's a large topic, but in a few words, you can create a script that will initialize a component and will test what is displayed with this component using some props.
So it's both unit testing and integration testing, right?
Yes, you can test with Jest and also with Enzyme. It's another one I will show you, which is created by Airbnb, Enzyme.js. It's another tool for testing, but you can test also the interaction. You can test if the on-press event works properly. But I think, in fact, you always need human testing. I think, yeah.
In your knowledge, what would be the the most advanced application, mobile application, developed fully with React Native?
The most advanced, I don't know, but I know some advanced application. You can see in the React Native website in Showcase. You have some example. Let's say the first one was Facebook Ads Manager. It was the first application using React Native for iOS and Android. Also, it was 100% with React Native. Regarding let's say Airbnb. For Airbnb, it is a native application, but using React Native only for some screens of the app. So it's something also you can do is to integrate React Native only in some parts of your application. Vogue is also advanced, so you can take a look. It's a nice application.
On iOS, you have a great way to handle all the different screen size of iPhones, the auto layout. Do we have the same thing on React Native? And is it like as easy as on using if code?
I think it's not easiest, but it's different. You can maybe, as you know, you can choose what kind of simulator do you want. I use the iPhone SE, but you can choose a different one like iPad and iPhone 7 and so on. So where it is here, iOS, you can choose a different device. And then in the code, what you have to do is to you can check the dimensions. For example, for the image, we used dimensions get window width. Here, you can create some condition. If the screen is big, you can do something specific. And also with some native modules, you can know if it's an iPad or if it's an iPhone. You can use this kind of components to do some fine tuning.
Que la famille.